Welcome, everyone, to website Wizardry and social media sorcery. My name is Denise Mullinex. I'm the founder of Geek Girl Publishing. We are designed as a small business to help authors kind of get yourself off the ground, whether it's with social media or your websites. And this is just a little bit about me. We've been around for a good decade or so, helping authors, from new to established authors, helping them get out there and get on the road. That's the hardest part of being an author, and we all kind of know that. Me being an author myself, I understand that. So let's get going. So the first thing about websites is, there's essentials, right? We want to make sure that your website has a clear homepage, right? You want to showcase your latest books and bio. You want to add purchase links and also your social media. That's super important, right? Because nobody wants to go searching for your Instagram handle or your TikTok handle. We want to make sure that it's a clear page, right? We don't want it to be super cluttered, and we don't want it to have tons of things on there. So usually we want to go with your latest book, maybe a little bio about yourself, maybe a link to your social media, maybe a blog, right? Talking about your wins, your successes, maybe fails. Those are the types of things that you want to add to your homepage, right? To make it nice and clear. So no clutter. The second is adding a book page. Now, why is that important? Well, if you're wanting to sell books, not on just social media itself, but you want to sell it physically on a static page, then you definitely need to give your readers or potential customers a chance to actually see the book, the cover, maybe a little about section about the book, a blurb, any reviews that you currently have, purchase links, right? If you have more than one, place that you sell your books, like Amazon, etc., then you definitely want to add those there so you give a chance to all your potential customers to purchase from that. And of course, an email sign up. An email sign up should be on, you can put it on your homepage, you can put it on every page, you decide where you want to put it. But we do recommend it does, stay on the homepage and maybe follow you to other pages as well. And you can offer a free chapter or an exclusive content in your emails. There are several companies out there that do a really good job and that are fairly easy to use, like MailerLite, MailChimp, and some others. So definitely take a look at those as well. The other obviously is going to be your contact page or a media kit. It simplifies the outreach for possible interviews or events that people want to get you to come to, and obviously gives you a chance to hear from your readers as well, just not on social media. Maybe they want to write you an email letting you know how they love the book. So those are kind of the basics with websites. So the next portion we're going to get into is the social media sorcery of it all. I know it can be heavily complicated for a lot of authors trying to decide where you start off with on social media, right? And that's not an easy subject for a lot of authors. So my advice is, finding your platform, knowing the platforms as they are and what they kind of do. Now, if we kind of look at, say, Instagram, it's perfect really for visuals, like fantasy romance. It's really there for, shots of your writing book, of you writing books, maybe a mood board, maybe some fan art that people have put together, or maybe you've put together. It's really there to kind of share your information. And I do, a lot of authors really like Instagram because it's really easy to use. It's one app that you can upload your video, you can upload your images to, or maybe a couple of images to, and kind of share that both in stories and in posts or in video. So that makes it a little easier for authors to use. Now, there are other places like TikTok where you can leverage, what we call book talk now, that's been very popularized, where, book lovers come together and they talk about the books they love. Maybe you can leverage that, use that hashtag, talk about your wins, talk about, maybe you're creating a shelf tour of, where you write, inspiring, potential readers and showing them who you are and giving them a little piece of yourself. And that's up to you really solely as an author. what you want to share. I always say go with what you're comfortable with, right? You're not obligated to share everything out there with everyone. So I definitely will say share with what you're comfortable. And especially with social media, choose the platform that you feel you're going to be comfortable with, right? Maybe you want to start off on Instagram and maybe move later on to something like TikTok. There's also X, or what was formerly known as Twitter. There are still a lot of writing communities on Twitter. They definitely use the hashtag writing community for sprints, or, you can share quotes, share a little bit about, what's going on with your books. You can also promote your books there as well. A lot of people tend to move off a little bit of X currently, but that's a decision that you have to make as an author and decide where you feel comfortable as. There's also Pinterest. Pinterest is kind of a growing platform where authors have seen ways to, create boards for characters, or you maybe put together a list of images of potential people they would love to cast if their book was made into a movie. It's great for research as well. Sometimes you want to find images that will inspire you while you're writing. So maybe Pinterest might be the place for you. Pinterest does allow video and they do allow links. So it's, again, another place that you might want to consider. So those are kind of knowing some of your platforms. Now, there are other social media platforms out there. There's Threads now. There's a whole bunch of different other ones as well. So definitely do your research and see where you feel comfortable. Try it out. See if it's something that you are okay with going forward with, and give yourself time to learn it. Social media can change anywhere from 6 months to a year. So definitely take your time, do your research, and find where you're comfortable. Next is the content strategy. So what are you going to post, right? I made some examples earlier about what you can post, and it's really called an 80/20, or I love to call 80/20 alchemy. So 20% of promotion is, really there for you to share your cover reveals for your books, pre-orders, maybe announce an event that you're going to currently be at. And that's where you're going to kind of save that 20% for. The other 40% is really going to be more behind the scenes, right? Again, this is all about what you feel comfortable sharing as an author. So maybe a draft snippet, research fails, workspace tours, where you write, where you get your inspiration. And it doesn't have to be limited to just your workspace. Maybe it's a place that inspires you that you want to share. So I definitely say, take a look at that, make some ideas from that. You can, put it in a list and decide what you feel comfortable sharing, and make a list out of that and make some, small content from that. There's also the other side of things, really, of getting engagement from your followers or potential people that are going to read your books, like engagement polls. Should I kill that particular character? Maybe it's a question and answer where you're answering questions from people that have read the book. Maybe it's a shout out to some of the fans that have left you reviews or have been really adamant about the book itself. So definitely that's where you're going to really play with the content here. Now, there are other ways, there's other ideas out there. You can do some research. Again, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but I would definitely follow this kind of strategy of 20% promotion, because you don't want to sell all the time. If you sell all the time, you're going to sound like a salesman. You're just looking to sell your book. And yes, we're all looking to sell our book out there and gain that popularity, but you have to do it in a way that's not overwhelming to the consumer, right? Because it takes a person time to digest everything that they get, whether it's a video, an image, maybe, whatever it may be. It does take a person time to think about it and say, I'm kind of interested in that. Maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe I'll save that post, and then purchase from you later, right? So you want to give them that chance without overwhelming them with that same content all the time. Some other growth tactics, kind of like I call it the collaboration cauldron. So this is things that you can do whether on Instagram, on TikTok, or just online in general, right? Using hashtags. Some of the things you can do are partner what we call micro influencers. These are people that have about 1,000 to 10,000 followers, for them to maybe talk about your book, or maybe they interview you about your book. It's a good way to meet the community that you are in, whether it be another writer, maybe it's maybe another author. I've seen other authors do that with each other. They'll interview each other because they, maybe that one author has a bigger following and they're willing to help you out in that sense. So it's definitely a good way to like really get involved in your community, really engage with the current community that you have, and maybe look into partnering with other people out there and seeing if they're willing to help out. There are programs like on TikTok that do help you reach what they call affiliates or influencers, so definitely take a look into that. They have their own set of rules for that. TikTok is also good for, doing duets with fellow authors or fellow content out there that you feel comfortable sharing, right? If somebody's talking about, a fellow author on TikTok is talking about their writing journey and they're asking other authors what their writing journey was like, you can duet that particular video and talk about your experience. Or maybe it's someone talking about the books that they read and you join in and talk about the books that you've read or inspired you. Or you can create a video of you doing it yourself. These are things that I definitely recommend. Do your research, look at what other authors are doing that have a good following, and try to mimic that, because it's super helpful. And you always want to be yourself, right? Never try to be anyone else, be yourself. I always find that videos tend to hit better when people are authentic and they're honest about who they are. And then there's also hashtags, right? Hashtags are a way to reach specific communities. For example, for those who like cozy mystery, you can use cozy mystery, or those who like romance, there's the romance hashtag. There's also, subgenres of romance and mystery. So you can find those hashtags online, especially something like Space Opera Sunday. So you can find different hashtags by Googling, looking at popular hashtags. There are apps out there that help you do your research. Google's great as well. So you can, do some research and say top 20 romance hashtags to use, maybe base it on what you're currently writing. But that'll help you kind of make that research and move forward. And you don't want to go crazy with the hashtags on your content. Be sure to use about 8 to 12. Don't go any higher than that. It tends to make it a little too cluttery and it doesn't look good in the content itself. Avoiding the pitfalls, and I love calling it the anti-curse shield. So, some things that you want to avoid, especially auto DMing your links, books. It's kind of door-to-door sales. No one really does it anymore. I've seen a couple of authors still do it, and for some reason it irks me a little bit, because I'm already on your page, I'm interested in your content, and then you're just immediately trying to sell me your book. Again, let your reader digest the content that you have, and they're more likely probably to buy from you once they get to know you. So, and then of course, track your engagement, not the number of your followers. I know in this world, follower numbers mean a lot of things, but you know, you can look at bigger content providers that have like huge amounts of followers, and you tend to see not a lot of engagement sometimes, especially on like pages like Facebook or Instagram. So be wary of that sort of stuff. Really be there for the comments. If someone comments on your post, comment back, thank them, like their post. Be engaged in the conversation that you're creating on your, especially because it's your online presence, it's your brand. This is how you're representing yourself as an author. That's super important, right? And then of course, as always, because no one has a lot of time to promote their work. Schedule wisely, right? Use tools like Buffer, Later, there's Meta Business Suite, and there's others that'll help you schedule your content to make it easier for yourself. And you can create content, create yourself a little calendar. Maybe create 10 pieces of content that you know that you're going to use throughout the week. Post 2 to 3 times a week. Don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning trying to be like everybody else and posting constant contact out there, because it's not going to do you any favors. You want to take it slow, and you don't want to burn yourself out either. So definitely think about ways to, get yourself a calendar online, whether you use an Excel spreadsheet to create your content, Google Sheets, whatever it may be. And then, of course, plan out your content, post 2 to 3 times a week to start, and then you can build yourself up as you feel comfortable. That way, you don't get overwhelmed or burnt out doing that. And then, of course, some tools to fuel your quest. So there are programs out there like Canva to help you design Instagram stories, Pinterest pins, Facebook content, you name it. Canva does it all these days. They even do video now. So definitely look into that. Canva does have a free version. They also have a paid version. And, so definitely look into the different versions there and see what it all depends on your budget, right? And then, of course, there are places like BookFunnel or Story Origin that kind of help you distribute reader magnets securely. So that way, the person that you're distributing that book to is going to either leave you a review or join your mailing list, whatever you may choose going forward. And then, of course, there's, just like Buffer and Later, Meta Business Suite has its way to schedule to both Facebook and Instagram. It's free to use. It's free to create a business page on Facebook. It's free to create Instagram. So that may be a way for you to start to gain a following and get people to like you. So definitely think of that as well. But you still can use other tools. Again, it's all about what you feel comfortable using and learning from, right? Everything is a process. So give yourself that time. So some key takeaways from all of this, because it's a lot of information within the time frame here. So I want to try to make it a little easier. So website anchors, right? Your website is the anchor to your brand, right? So you want to make sure that your front page is your website. That's the face of your brand. Then you want to make sure that it has a clear homepage. It has a books page. It has a way for your followers to interact with you, whether it be social media or an email sign up for your mailing list, and also a contact page. There's also, look at ways to amplify your reach through social media. First, find that social media, that works for you. Find that platform, do your research, do your content research, then decide to schedule it out. Use a tool like Canva to create your content. Then always prioritize your readers, right? Go where your readers are the most active. Do your research. This all I sound like a broken record, but it is what it is, right? You have to do your research, talk to others that write in your same genre and say, where are you finding your readers? Oh, you're finding them on Instagram? Great. Then try Instagram. Do your research always and talk to people, because the best way you're going to learn about something is to also open yourself up to the writing community. Writing can be, it could be lonely sometimes. So make sure that you open up to others, learn about the process out there, learn about tools, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And then, of course, authentic interaction, right? I kind of mentioned this before with social media. Balance your promotion with genuine engagement, right? Be honest, be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else when it comes to social media. If you have something that works for you, whether it's humor while you're writing, whether it's, writing good pieces of content that make people inspired to read your stuff, then do that. Always be yourself. The better you are at being yourself, the better you're going to showcase to others online. So that's my piece of advice, and I've been doing this for a very long time. So I find that being honest and kind to others, especially on social media, is the way to go. So I want to thank you all for taking the time with me and joining me today on this short course, but I appreciate your patience, and you can find me online. My website's geekgirlpublishing.net.